Welcome back to the Rami Lavi podcast. And guess what? It's NFL season preview time. I'm pretty fired up about this. I get to do this once a year, right? Where we preview the entire season. Now, the way I decided to do this today, and I'm not yelling about the Yankees, I'm not yelling about the Mets. Those games are a little bit later. I'll be at the US Open maybe tomorrow. I'll hang out and then hit game one, Thursday Night Football, the NFL season. We'll get to that game a little bit later, Chiefs and Ravens, and some of my gambling picks, which I like for this game. But we got to start. Here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to do a few things here. I'm going to give you my Super Bowl prediction. I'm going to give you my MVP bet. I'm going to give you some maybe under the radar stories, picks, stuff like that. I'm going to give you my power rankings as of today and my quarterback rankings as of today. So those two are really not so much about what I think will be at the end of the season, but where the teams stack up today. As you see, there will be discrepancies between my power rankings and my actual picks for the season. Now, I've seen some of the picks on Good Morning Football, and my guy, Peter Schrager, I mean, please, God, I hope he's right. He has Rodgers winning the MVP and the Jets taking the number one seed. I am not that high on the Jets. For him to be that high, and again, go to the Believe in Jets podcast and listen to all my thoughts on the New York Jets over there. I talked to Antoine Staley, obviously talked to Bilal Powell, and I'll be doing more content over there as well over the course of the week and the season, of course. We do Bilal every Friday, Antoine every Tuesday. We're going to have other guests thrown out in there throughout the season. I'll be doing some solo pods as well. So lots to talk about when it comes to the New York Jets, and we'll get to all of it. But Schrags is just making me so nervous because when people are overhyped on the Jets, I start to get, oh my God, these people are buying in on the Jets a little bit too much. It makes me nervous when people are too hyped up on the Jets, and I get scared. And Peter Schrager has historically been one of the best at predicting what happens before the season starts. I think he's had the Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl finalist every single year, the last 5 or 6 years or something like that. When he says it, it happens. And if he's this in on the Jets, it makes me nervous because he's usually right. And I'm scared because the Jets being good, I don't know how to react to that. But there's another thing, and I want to talk about this on the Believe in Jets podcast, and I will. There's something that Jerry Recco said on the WFAN morning show, which I fully agree with, and he's 1000% right about. If you're a Jets fan, you're so conditioned to think that the Jets are just going to disappoint you and upset you in the end, and it's going to lose. And even if it's going well, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. The problem is with that mentality, we have that mentality to protect ourselves because the Jets always disappoint us. That's been the history. History has shown that they're always going to disappoint us. And while past results don't predict future outcomes, the best indicator of future outcomes is past results, prior history. So I understand as a Jet fan. I've been a Jet fan my whole life. I know what it's like to be waiting for that other shoe to drop and to just be waiting for something negative to happen. So if they go into San Francisco and they crush the 49ers and Aaron Rodgers looks great, you're like, well, he'll get hurt next week or something bad will happen. You're always waiting for something terrible to happen. I fully understand it. I get it from the Jets perspective and from a Jets fan perspective. The problem is, this is a rare year where your roster is so good. Aaron Rodgers is so good. If you're constantly waiting for the negative to happen, you're going to miss out on all the fun. So live in the moment. Just enjoy it while it lasts, even if the moment is finite. And I said this last year. I said enjoy the hard knocks. I said enjoy all the hype before the season because who knows what can go wrong, might go wrong. And in the past, it has gone wrong with the Jets. So enjoy the moments. And ultimately, we were disappointed 4 plays in. If we are lucky enough to get more than 4 plays, if we're lucky enough to get some joy out of this football season, enjoy it. Breathe it in. Take it in because we've never had this in recent years, in the last 25 years as Jet fans. So the point is, take the opportunity to appreciate what you have in front of you. And other teams and other people looking around saying the Jets could be one of the best teams in the league. They have the best roster. Aaron Rodgers, after a year off, is coming back hungrier with a chip on his shoulder, might be better than ever. It could be MVP level Aaron Rodgers. Enjoy that. And if they start to win games and if they start to play well, don't wait for the negative to happen. Enjoy it. Embrace it because that's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to look back. Let's say this is the year. And this is what Jerry said. There was a time when Cub fans thought they'd never see a World Series. And guess what? There's Steve Barton. There's all these terrible things. Or Bartman. And then they won the World Series. There was a time when Red Sox fans thought they would never win the World Series, and then they won the World Series. If you were a Red Sox fan who was constantly waiting for the negative and the bad to happen, did you really enjoy that World Series championship? That's the problem. You're going to waste what could be that magical year where the Jets finally break the curse. Don't waste it because you're constantly waiting for something negative to happen. Enjoy it, embrace it, because this can be the year. And I believe this can be the year for the New York Jets. I just am not too hyped up like Peter Schrager and some other people. So I'll tell you where my mind is with some of these things. And I did this on an app where you can simulate the whole season and pick actually game by game. So some of my games, some of my teams, I kind of thought they'd be better or worse, but I went according to the schedule. And of course you have to take into account upsets and whatever. I kind of made it work for how I project the season is going to go, but you also have to be true to the schedule. So here's what I came up with, and let's start with the Western conferences, because I think these are some of the best teams in the league. Then we'll go to the power rankings, the top 10 quarterbacks and all that stuff. But we'll start with my season predictions, and then we'll end it off with the Super Bowl prediction and obviously some other things, and then my pick for Thursday Night Football. So let's start with my division predictions. We'll start in the AFC West. I have the Chiefs at 13-4 in the AFC West, obviously winning that division. I think this is going to be another year from Patrick Mahomes. It felt like all year they were stalling, never even figured out. Even in the Super Bowl, it's like, I don't know, who's he going to complete these passes to? Even in the AFC Championship game, their offense looked terrible, and their defense kept him in them. I think their defense isn't going to take too much of a step back, and their offense is going to be even better than it was last year with Xavier Worthy. If Hollywood Brown gives them anything, I think the Chiefs offense is going to be excellent this coming year. So I love the Chiefs 13-4. They'll have their duds in there, which the Chiefs do, where it's like, oh, they just kind of punted that one away maybe. But I think 13-4, they've proven that they don't need a win at home in the playoffs. They could do it all on the road like they did last year. I think 13-4 for the Chiefs this year. They're going to have another incredible season. And honestly, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes at any point. So he's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen, could ultimately go down as the greatest quarterback we've ever seen. So I am not going to bet against him. I have the Chiefs at 13-4. The Chargers I have at 8-9. Now that's a major bump. I get it. But at the same time, I might think only 8 wins. Justin Herbert is hurt, and that terrifies me. Now the upside is Justin Herbert could be incredible, but he's hurt going into the year. The team doesn't have a ton of talent. And while I love Harbaugh, and I think Harbaugh will give them a big boost than what they had previously, obviously, the past few years in the coaching, from a coaching standpoint, I mean, he took his brother's leftovers at running back. Like there's just not enough talent on this roster. So 8-9, I think, for the LA Chargers. The Vegas Raiders, I actually don't think their coaching situation is that bad. I think their team is better. But again, it's another spot that, look at the quarterbacks there, Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. It's just not a good situation quarterback wise. And so I have them at 5-12. I can't see them winning a ton of games. I don't think this division is going to be terrible, but 5-12. The Denver Broncos are interesting because I have them at 4-13, and I'm actually kind of higher on the Broncos than that pick. I think their number for the year is like 7.5, which I think they're lower than that. I think Bo Nix is going to have a good year. I could see them winning 6 to 7 games. But just how the schedule played out when I went through this exercise, I had them at 4. Now, would I be shocked if they won 7 games? I think they'd win. They're going to win more than 4 games. But like I said, when I go through this exercise, I had to give a win-loss to every game. I had to pick on every game. So I have Denver at 4-13. I do think the roster across the board is one of the worst rosters. So while I do think they got the quarterback situation right, again, it's still a starting quarterback in the NFL, a rookie quarterback starting his first year in the league. It's not going to be easy for Bo Nix. I think he does have a really good rookie season, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I think for now, Denver is going to go 4-13. In the NFC West, let's go to the NFC, the West. I think one of the best rosters in football. They've got it all figured out with Ayuk and Trent Williams and everything else. And obviously they have Brock Purdy and all that. San Francisco is going to go 13-4. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. Now the LA Rams, I have them at 8-9 as well as Seattle. I think both those rosters are good. I don't know if Matthew Stafford's going to play 17 games. I think he can play 14 to 15 games, and they could still be really good in some of those games. But I think some games they're just not going to look great. And they've drafted really well for the picks that they've had. Of course, they gave it all away for that one Super Bowl, and worth it. You give up everything for that one Super Bowl. But unfortunately, the roster doesn't have the talent that they did, 3-4 years ago when they did win that Super Bowl, 2-3 years ago at this point. So I think Stafford's great, but I see them at 8-9. Seattle, I think, has a pretty good roster, and Geno Smith showed us what he is, which is a solid NFL quarterback, but I don't think he's great. And that's why I have Seattle at 8-9 as well. I don't get the hype around Arizona. I get that they have Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler, if he can stay healthy. When has he ever stayed healthy? People are hyping him and the Cardinals up a ton. I don't love it, especially from a fantasy perspective. People are hyping up Kyler. That I get a little bit more because he's going to run a lot, but I don't get the love with Kyler Murray. I have them at 5 and 12. Going to the Southern divisions, we have the NFC South and the AFC South, obviously. Let's start with the NFC, keep it in the NFC, so we'll go back and forth, I guess. NFC South, I do have Atlanta winning the division at 10 and 7. I do think they'll be really good. Now, do I think they're going to be this great juggernaut and that division is kind of wonky? I think they should be able to play well in their division, although all those teams seem to struggle in the division. Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, but I really like Kirk. We know what he is. He's a solid quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Bijan Robinson, they can lean heavily on him. It's interesting when you look at both them and the Jets, older quarterbacks coming off an Achilles, but young running back who they could heavily lean on. I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to all of a sudden break out because he's all this with Kirk Cousins. I think we've seen what he is. He's hurt already on the injury report for week 1. So I'm not too, I'd stay away if I was in a fantasy draft, which I did both my fantasy drafts already. I'd stay away from Kyle Pitts still, but I love Bijan Robinson this year. I think Drake London gets a big bump from Kirk Cousins. I have them at 10 and 7. I think the NFC is pretty tough and they have not the easiest schedule, but I do think they win that division going away. Number 2 in the division, I have Tampa. I love Baker Mayfield. I think they could win a lot of games. I think this team is really solid. Mike Evans is the most steady receiver in the NFL. If you want a great under the radar, maybe a 3rd, 4th round or $25 type wide receiver, hopefully probably closer to $35, but Mike Evans is incredible, and he gives you consistency, 1,000 yards every single year of his career. This guy is unbelievable. Model of consistency. I think Baker's going to have a solid year for them. I think he finally feels secure, and this is his home. I'd take Baker Mayfield today over Deshaun Watson. So I love Baker Mayfield in Tampa, but I think overall the team is going to be kind of mediocre. I have them at 8, 8 and 1 with a tie thrown in there because I wanted to make it somewhat realistic. I have them tying the New Orleans Saints, who I have at 7, 9 and 1. New Orleans is another team that good defense, always going to play tough, good enough offense. I just don't think Derek Carr is that great, and the weapons there are not great. Although Chris Olave is a really good receiver, I don't think they have much beyond that. And so I have them at 7, 9 and 1. And the last team in the division, and this may shock people, I have Carolina at 6 and 11. I think their roster is not great, but I do think Bryce Young, I don't think it was just a fluke what we saw out of him in college. I think he was in a terrible situation last year. I think this year he will take a big step. Now, it might not be this giant, massive leap that people are talking about. Oh, he's a difference. Maybe, but I think he's not a total bust. I'm not ready to write him off yet. I think Carolina is going to be a lot better. I think they should be able to win some games in that division. And I mostly think that it's going to be because Bryce Young takes a big step in the right direction. And maybe in 2 years from now, we're looking at them as one of the favorites in that division. I think some of those wins come late in the year. And I think Carolina does take a step in the right direction. 6 and 11, not the greatest record in the world, but it's certainly an improvement from where they were last year. In the AFC South, and this is maybe my hottest take, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars going 14 and 3. I have them as the best team, the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think Jacksonville is going to be incredible this year. They have a ton of weapons with Evan Ingram. Obviously, they have Christian Kirk, who's not a top-end guy, but he's good enough. Travis Etienne is awesome. Could be one of the best running backs in football this year. I love Gabe Davis over there, big body guy, another big body guy. You could almost bracket them. Him, Gabe Davis, and Evan Ingram as 2 tight ends, run 2 tight end sets like that because of the big body that Davis has, but he also gives you a vertical threat down the field. I really like them, and I think this is going to be an MVP caliber season from Trevor Lawrence. I think he finally takes that next step. We've seen it from guys like Josh Allen. The first few years in the league showed flashes, were really good at times. Last year, I thought could have been the year for Trevor Lawrence, but he gets hurt. They were 8 and 3 in the games he was healthy. I think Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars take a massive leap this year. I think the division's weaker this year. I have them going 14 and 3 as one of the best teams in the AFC. And I see them winning that division. Houston, I think, on the other hand, takes a slight step back. The reason why I think Houston takes a slight step back is because all the hype, everyone's prepared for them. Tougher schedule. We saw what they did last year in the postseason. Everyone's ready for CJ Stroud. They have a ton of weapons with Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Obviously, they bring in Stephon Diggs. So I do like their offense still. I think Stroud will have a really great year, but minor step back. I see them going 10 and 7 this year. Indianapolis, now I saw this somewhere, and I don't know if it's true, but Anthony Richardson has only played 17 total games since his high school days. He has a really hard time staying healthy, and as good as that roster might be, I don't trust him to stay healthy. When he's out there, they'll be great, but they brought in Joe Flacco for a reason. I think Joe Flacco ends up getting a bunch of playing time this year, 4, 5, 6 games at least. I have them going 7, 9, and 1. And Tennessee's an interesting story. Obviously, Will Levis there. They lose Derrick Henry. It's kind of a rebuild for them, but I do have them having a mediocre season. The reason I said Indianapolis 7, 9, and 1, I think Tennessee is always good in the division. So I have them 5, 11, and 1, where they could win some of those division games and have them having that tie with Indianapolis. So Tennessee, not as bad as maybe some people think, although I do think their roster is not that great. The AFC North. Let's move to the North. We'll start with the AFC and Baltimore because of how good this division is. And I do think Baltimore lost Mike McDonald on as the defensive coordinator, lost Patrick Queen. I think they take a slight step back on defense. I don't think Derrick Henry is what he once was, although he's a great running back. And I think they need to focus a little bit more. We saw the regular season was great last year. They've had great regular seasons. Lamar playing at an MVP level. They need to focus more on the playoffs and trying to preserve whatever energy they have. Don't rely too heavy on Lamar running the ball. Don't rely too heavy on Derrick Henry running the ball. Just be good enough to win the division and see if you can win a game on the road in the playoffs, because having home field advantage last year, it wasn't good enough for you. So they need to have a different strategy going into this year. I have them at 11-6 and winning the North, but 11-6 maybe a little bit lower than people have them. I don't think in that division, which is going to be tough, they can get to the 12, 13, 14 wins. Cincinnati, the Bengals, I have them at 11-6 as well. Joe Burrow's health really scares me. People talk about Higgins wants a contract and Chase wants a contract, and that's what's scary. Nah, that's not what's scary. What's scary is that if those guys if those guys are great, but Joe Burrow's not healthy again, then I don't know what to tell you. He's been hurt almost every year of his career. I have them at 11-6 because I think they'll win a bunch of games, lose a bunch of games. The defense isn't great. They'll lose some games in the division. And I can't pencil in Joe Burrow for more than 14, 15 games. I do think we see a backup quarterback. Now, the injuries he's had have been all season-ending injuries. So to say, oh, he'll play 14, 15 games, you might as well think he'll play the full year. But he's been hurt almost every year. I have him playing about 14, 15 games, gutting it through some, and they go 11-6. Pittsburgh, everyone thinks they're going to be great. I think they have a mess at the quarterback situation. I think Russell Wilson is benched by the middle of the season, but I do think Justin Fields will come in and be very good for them. Their defense is good enough. They have some weapons. I have them at 8-9, the Mike Tomlin effect. I can't see them. Of course, now he has the 500 record streak where he hasn't been under 500. This would be the first time he's under 500, but still 8-9 for what that roster is, I think is actually really good. And then Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland is that great at all. I think their defense is phenomenal, but I'm scared of Deshaun Watson. I'm scared of that offense. To me, Deshaun Watson is terrible. I think we'll see Jameis Winston start a bunch of games. There's no reason for me to believe that Deshaun Watson is all of a sudden can be great again. I have him at 6-11 and Cleveland going 6-11. To the NFC North, I like Detroit to win the division, but I don't think, again, Detroit's going to be this juggernaut that goes 13, 12, 13, 14 wins. I think they're an 11-6 team. That division, I think, gets tougher this year. They now have to play a first place schedule because they had such a good year last year. There's a bunch of factors here. People are coming to get them. And the one factor no one's talking about with the Lions, and I can't understand why nobody's talking about this. The Detroit Lions came off a game where they should have, in every matter, they should have gone to the Super Bowl. They were a Super Bowl team last year. They had the lead on the road in the NFC Championship game. And guess who blew it? The coach who everyone loves, Dan Campbell, cost them. And the players are to blame too, of course. But Dan Campbell cost them a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think you just get over that quickly. I think that might hang over them a little bit. As much as people want to say, oh, they're just going to be great again this year because they have a great roster. They're better. Why would they be worse than last year? This year's the Super Bowl year for them. Everyone's celebrating what the Lions did last year because they won a couple of playoff games. Now, remember, some of those games were really close. The game against Tampa, they could have lost that game. So I'm not saying that they're taking a massive step back. I just think everyone's forgetting how it ended for them last year. And I think that could kind of hang over them as a cloud when they get in those late game situations again. How does Dan Campbell react? How does the team react when they're late and close with that loss from last year hanging over them? I'm not so sure they react extremely well in that situation. I have them going 11-6, not the 12, 13, 14 win caliber season people are talking about them. Next, I have Green Bay. I think Green Bay, again, they showed a bunch last year at the end of the year, but Jordan Love really only got hot the last month of the season. The fact that, and even Gutekunst, the GM, said, oh, well, we don't know what we have yet at quarterback. And then they give him this massive contract because he had a solid month. Again, that's their decision. He was really good for that month. But think about even like the Giant game. How do you lose that game? Like, come on, right? So I had them going 10-7. I'm not buying all the hype yet. I like them, but I don't think that Jordan Love is this, can't miss, incredible quarterback just yet. Number 3, I have the Chicago Bears. I have them going 6-11. Look, I think Caleb Williams will be good, but it's going to take a while to figure it out. I love their weapons. I love Odunze. I love DJ Moore. I think Keenan Allen does take a slight step back. Obviously, he's been on the steady decline the last couple of years from a fantasy perspective for sure. His skill set is diminishing a little bit, but I still love the roster that they have. And I think just the struggles of a rookie quarterback. I don't know if Eberflus makes it past this year. It's tough. 6-11. I would never have kept as much as you might like Eberflus and the stability, all cool. You have to give Eberflus this year and next year if you're keeping him. If you're keeping him with a rookie quarterback, I never loved that decision. I would have started fresh. But if you're keeping him this year and you go 6-11, you got to keep him next year too. I don't know what they do about that. Number 4 in the division, I have Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, I don't think is going to be as bad as people think, but just going to be tough to find wins in the NFC. That's what it comes down to. I think even in the division, it's going to be tough to find wins. I have them at 5-12. I don't have them bottoming out completely. I think Sam Darnold's going to put up some numbers, but I also think he's going to lead the league in interceptions given the opportunity. Let's go to the NFC East and the number 1 team. And I don't understand why people are so out on them. They look terrible in the NFC playoffs. I get it, but I have them as the number 1 seed again. They look terrible at home against Green Bay, but I love the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dak's playing for a contract. I think he's going to get a huge contract. I love Dak Prescott this season. I think he's going to have a monster year. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to have a monster year. They have some tight ends who are going to play really well. And their defense still has Micah Parsons last I checked. They still have a good enough defense. I think they'll improve on the defensive line. They know that they got beat in the trenches last year. I think they're going to watch that game back and improve from last year. I have Dallas going 13-4, the number 1 seed. I think I have them as the number 1 seed, yes, in the NFC. Number 2, I have Philly. Again, another situation where I don't think is as terrible as it was the end of the last year, but you hear people talking about the quarterback and the head coach, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts not getting along. And obviously, you don't have your offensive leader in Jason Kelce. I do think that's going to take some adjusting. I think it might get ugly early in the season. Maybe even Nick Sirianni gets fired early in the season. I think they figure out by the time the season ends, and they still make the playoffs, but I have them at 10-7, not one of the best teams. And the Washington Commanders, I have them at 7-10. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the better rookie quarterbacks this year as well, in a similar category with Bo Nix, where everyone's talking about Caleb Williams. I like Jaden Daniels this year, and 7-10 because they can get some wins in the division. They always do, and they have a pretty weak schedule. I think Washington can win 7 games. They're number 6.5. I like the over there. The Giants, on the other hand, the other side of the coin, and this is interesting with the New York Giants. The New York Giants, to me, have a great chance here to have a really good regular season. But the thing is, I don't love the quarterback. The quarterback is the problem. Daniel Jones is not the answer. Tommy DeVito is not the answer, and definitely not Drew Lock. They don't have the answer at the most important position on the field. And the problem is they're still, and Brian Daboll has proven this, they're still going to find ways to win games with a terrible quarterback. And ultimately it can hurt them. It hurt them this past year, right? In the draft, we saw it. They wanted to trade up for Jaden Daniels or Drake May. They couldn't do it because they just didn't have they didn't have the pick. They wanted to draft one of those guys, but they had too low of a pick because the team was too good. And I think they're going to be in a similar situation this year where they're not terrible. They don't bottom out, but they're just not good enough. Daniel Jones is done after this year. They go 6-11 though. They're last in the division, under the 6.5 win total. I'll give them the 6 wins because I love Dable that much. But ultimately, I think that puts them in a terrible spot again. And they might be looking to trade. Maybe it's a Dak Prescott. Maybe it's a Kirk Cousins. Or maybe they have to trade up and draft the quarterback of the future in the draft. But I don't think they'll be in a good enough position to draft them with their own pick. And so it could be another repeat of the same thing we saw in Hard Knocks offseason for the Giants. In the AFC East, and this is my division, I have Miami going 11-6. Look, those weapons are too good, but late in the season, we know what happens. Cold weather, they end the season, I think, up in Cleveland. They end the season up in New York against the Jets. it happens to be they get those Buffalo games out of the way early. They're in Buffalo like really early in the season, early October, something like that. I think they'll win that game. So the schedule makers did them a favor there. But late in the season, some cold weather games, we saw it. I can't get that image out of my mind. I know how great they were early in the season, but I can't get that image out of my mind of them not being able to do anything against Kansas City in the cold weather in the playoffs. So I have Miami going 11-6 with a couple of late season disappointing losses. I do have them winning the division over the Jets, who are going to be 11-6 as well. My full thoughts on the Jets, go listen to the In-Flight, or used to be In-Flight Snack, the Believe in Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Buffalo, I have going 10-7. They've lost too many weapons. It's unfortunate for them. I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in that division still, but their starting safety is Damar Hamlin. Their secondary is cooked. Their defense is just not good enough, and they don't even have the weapons on offense anymore. Obviously, Gabe Davis gone. Obviously, Stephon Diggs gone. It's just too many guys to replace. I love Dalton Kincaid. He can't be the only receiver that Josh Allen's throwing the ball to. I think they'll try and run the ball more with James Cook. I hope they do. But you know how much Josh Allen turns the ball over. That's not great. And then last in the division, I think one of the worst teams in the league is New England. I have them winning 3 games. I don't know how, but I have the New England Patriots going 3-14. Have you seen Bill Belichick is on Instagram now? So looks like he's doing really well with his time off. So that would get you, by the way, just for seeding purposes, and we'll get back to this a little bit later. It gets me the Jags as the number 1 seed, the Chiefs as the number 2 seed, Miami as the number 3 seed, Baltimore the number 4 seed, the Jets the 5 seed, the 6 seed is the Bengals, and the 7 seed is the Houston Texans. So no Bills in the playoffs, according to what I have this model here. In the NFC, you have Dallas as number 1. You have San Francisco as number 2, the Lions as number 3, the Falcons as number 4, number 5 is Green Bay, or number 5 is the Eagles, and number 6 is Green Bay, and number 7 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to do now a couple of things. So we'll go through my NFL power rankings, and I have them in tiers again. And again, this is as of today. So I just told you what I think is going to happen in the season. I'll give you my power rankings. We'll do it quickly. But based on right now, and I don't think there'll be any major shockers in here, we'll go 32-1. Start with a league of their own. I have them in tiers. Tier number 7. I broke it down to 7 tiers. I don't think I'll do 7 tiers every week, but a league of their own. I think the Patriots are the worst roster in football. I have them in a league of their own. The number 6 tier is just bad. They're just bad teams, and there's a lot of them. The Raiders, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Giants, the Titans, and the Broncos, all just bad teams, not great teams at all. Then I have the tier, which is called interesting, and I'm curious to see what these teams do, but I don't think they're particularly good. That's the Saints, the Bears, the Colts, the Commanders, and the Vikings. All have some intrigue there, but not good teams, not playoff teams by any stretch, but definitely can win a bunch of games. Interesting to watch, whether it's Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels, one of those situations. Anthony Richardson in year 2. There's something interesting to watch for all those teams. Next is called the Pretenders. You know, there's contenders, pretenders. The number 4 tier is the Pretenders. There's a bunch of teams. I think the Browns, great defense, nothing on offense. The Jaguars, I have them as of today. Now, I told you where I like them at the end of the year, but as of today, they have to prove it still. Trevor Lawrence has to prove it still. Those offensive weapons I talked about have to prove it still. They're not contenders yet. They're still pretenders. The Bucks, again, same thing with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback, kind of pretenders. The Rams, again, older Matthew Stafford, don't love their weapons. The Steelers, the Seahawks, the Chargers, all in the pretenders category, not enough talent. And I don't love Justin Herbert even at number 20 for the Chargers. Then I have the playoff teams. This is the 3rd best tier. It's the teams that are likely and almost definitely going to make the playoffs, but maybe not go further than that, not Super Bowl teams. That's the Packers, the Bengals, and the Bears. Now, I have the Bengals and the Bills with the same record. I may have said Bears, but Bills. I have the Bengals and the Bills with the same record. So we'll see which one of those teams has the strength of schedule, the strength of division, making the playoffs. According to my model and the wins and losses that I did, it's the Bills beating out the Bengals, but I could see either one of those teams making the playoffs. Then we have the contenders. These guys are all Super Bowl contenders, but maybe not the Super Bowl favorites. And that is the Dallas Cowboys. Again, as of today, I love the Cowboys, but Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Not Super Bowl favorites, but definitely contenders to make the Super Bowl. And then the top 4, and these are the favorites, and it's the 4 from last year because it's all based on last year. This is, as of today, my power rankings again. The Chiefs, the Niners, the Ravens, and the Lions. Those are the 4 finalists from last year. I expect them to be there as of today. Again, we'll see how the power rankings change as the season go on. My top 10 quarterbacks in the league will go 10-1. Number 10, I have Jalen Hurts. Number 9, I have Matthew Stafford. Even though he's older, I still respect Matthew Stafford. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. Number 8, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy does not get the respect that he deserves. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And as of today, I have him as the 8th best quarterback. If this was anyone else, if he was a first round draft pick, we'd be talking about him like he's one of the best. He's done more in his first 3 years in the league than any of these guys. Josh Allen, almost Patrick Mahomes. If it weren't for Patrick Mahomes, he would have won a Super Bowl by now. He gets hurt in the first year. He could have gone to 2 Super Bowls. So as I know that team is loaded, but Brock Purdy's really good. I have him as the number 8 quarterback in the league. Number 7, I have Dak Prescott. Again, this is as of today. I think he'll ultimately find his way up the list. Number 6, I have Aaron Rodgers. I know he's coming off an injury, and the last time we saw him on the field, he wasn't great, but his thumb was hurt. I think Aaron Rodgers is due for a great year. You can't ignore what we've seen. And what we've seen is maybe the most talented, gifted quarterback I've ever seen in my life. From the pre-snap stuff that he does is Peyton-like, to the talent that he has with running with the ball, arm strength is Patrick Mahomes. Like, the only thing he doesn't have is the winning gene of Tom Brady, unfortunately. So one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen, Aaron Rodgers. I have him at number 6. Number 5, CJ Stroud, going into year 2, a lot to prove. Look, he proved it last year. It's on the field, off the field, the smarts, the leadership, and the ability that he has, the throws that he can make. I love CJ Stroud. I have him at number 5. Number 4 is the aforementioned Josh Allen. Josh Allen, for the turnovers and all that they are, I get it. Maybe that's why I don't have him higher up the list, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league and consistently has been for the last few years. Number 3 is Joe Burrow. The only question for him is health, because I do think when he's healthy, he's the last real just pocket passer in the league. Just stand back there, get the snap, pick apart a defense, almost Peyton Manning like. We don't see a ton of quarterbacks like that in the league anymore, and Joe Burrow is one of those guys, and it's impressive to watch. Number 2, the MVP, Lamar Jackson. As much as you want to say the playoff failures or his inability to throw, there's still nobody on a football field who I see doing things that Lamar can do when it comes to running the football, and that there's value to that, and you can't deny it. And the number 1 quarterback in my top 10 quarterbacks, obvious, Patrick Mahomes. Do I need to say any more? My award picks for the years. MVP, and this is the big one. The MVP, I have Dak Prescott winning the MVP. I have, again, the Vikings going 14-3. I think Dak's going to be incredible. I have him winning the MVP. The offensive player of the year, I do have Breece Hall. And watch out, sneaky rookie of the year pick. I think Bo Nix could be the offensive rookie of the year. He's given the reins. He was named team captain right away. Now we go to the playoffs. And I'm not going to go through the whole playoff tree, but I do think the final 4 teams will be the Jets and the Chiefs, the Cowboys and the Packers. A rematch of the Cowboys and Packers from last year. I think the Cowboys get it done this year and go to the Super Bowl. I think the Jets won't have enough, as much as a magical season they'll have, and enjoy this ride, but I don't think they'll be able to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead the way I have it set up. I think the Chiefs will go on to the Super Bowl, and I can't pick against the Chiefs. I'm picking the Chiefs as the Super Bowl champions over the Dallas Cowboys yet again. So that leaves us with just one thing. I'll do my gambling bets and other stuff for Sunday, but coming up on Thursday Night Football, the opening game of the season, we have the Ravens in Kansas City, the Super Bowl champions again. The Ravens are +3. Ravens money line is +130. Kansas City money line is -154. The over-under total for the game is 47.5, according to FanDuel. I really like Baltimore at +130. I think that's good juice. That's good odds. But you know how I roll. I'm not going to take Baltimore just straight up +130 on the money line. I'm not even going to take them at +3. I don't think that's enough juice if you don't think they're going to win the game. Now, I only pick the underdog if you think they're going to win the game. That's generally the rule. But I did adjust the number a little bit because it started as like a 4 number and it's kind of moved towards Baltimore a little bit. I guess people like the Ravens. I adjusted the line. And if you know my bets, you know how I do this all the time. I adjusted the line, Baltimore +4.5. And the under, the total in the game at 50.5 parlayed is +153. And that is my pick for this week. The Baltimore Ravens +4.5 adjusted line, the under 50.5 total adjusted line, +153. I do love, again, if you're feeling risky, you could take Baltimore on the money line +130. But this parlay, it buys you 3 points on the total, and it also buys you 1.5 on the spread. I love this pick. I think Baltimore will win this game. I do think Derrick Henry is going to have a really good game, and Lamar's going to have a really good game. It's going to be like, see, we told you we would have won again last year, and Raven fans are feeling good about themselves. And the Chiefs, they're casual, nonchalant early in the season. So I love that number. I love the under 50.5, and I love plus 4.5 for Baltimore. Until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast with a friend. I appreciate you all for listening. This episode, again, brought to you by Huga House. Link in the description to buy a cool Huga House hat. Not wearing a hat today, but cool Huga House hat. I can't wait. Football season is back. See ya.